Borderlands 3 is out on September the 13th, and I'm sorry, but I just have a bunch of questions about the game that I can't stop thinking about. Some of them are the enigmatic queries Gearbox itself dropped in their announcement of Borderlands 3, while others are questions that have probably occurred to you too. Things like, where the heck are the other Vault Hunters from Borderlands 2? What does Count the Sirens actually mean? And much more. Just a warning, there are spoilers in here for all of the Borderlands games and their DLCs, except for Tales from the Borderlands, so beware. Anyway, here's the questions about Borderlands 3 that desperately need to be answered when the game eventually comes out, and this is a long one, so get comfy. Let's start with the questions Gearbox itself has asked. In the teaser trailer for Borderlands 3, one of the hidden messages warned us all to count the sirens. What does that mean? Okay, so it definitely means we should count the sirens we know of so far, so a better question is probably, why do we need to count the sirens? Handsome Jack mentioned in Borderlands 2 that there's only 6 in existence at any one time, so the number of them currently around is presumably important. So far there's Maya, Amara and Tyreen. I'm leaving out Lilith because in one of the trailers she says,
"There are 6 sirens in the universe. I used to be one of them,"
as her siren tattoos disappear. So something has happened to sap her of her powers. Most likely, Tyreen or her brother Troy have absorbed them. To get distracted real quick, Tyreen's siren power is the ability to steal life from other people. And this shot in one of the first major trailers shows Lilith crawling away from the pair with 0 tattoos. Perhaps Tyreen used her power on Lilith, but instead of killing her, she stole her siren powers. Anyway, so far we know of 3 sirens. Maya has an apprentice in the trailer, but this gal doesn't look like she has any tattoos, so it's anyone's guess whether she's a siren or not. The other sirens, Angel and Commandant Steele, both died in previous games. That opens up a whole other question about sirens. When one dies, does another girl get born with siren powers, or do they spontaneously develop in some random female? Which leads me on to my next point. Troy could be the 4th siren. Yep, he's a guy. Until now, sirens were only female. But the red tattoos on his skin might imply that he's been given siren powers, somehow. Considering his tattoos are red, just like those vials of red stuff around his neck, I'm wondering if maybe he's had transfusions using blood from sirens, perhaps coming from his sister or a secret siren the pair are holding captive, making him an artificial siren. Anyway, to get back to my original point, clearly the number of sirens in Borderlands 3 is important. If we do count Troy as a siren, that means there's 2 more out there somewhere. A surprise siren might appear partway through the game, as something else entirely. There are some theories that one of the 2 remaining sirens might have been under our nose the whole time in the form of Tannis. Having Tannis as a secret siren would explain her eccentric fascination with Eridian technology and vaults, as the aliens would be the cause of her siren powers. She's always wanted to know more about the mysterious race, and her choice of clothing means that her tattoos have always been covered up. Although, to be fair, her chest remains untattooed, but it might be covered up with makeup. I don't know. So far, she hasn't used any siren powers that we know of, but it would make sense for her to want to investigate the vaults if she has a personal interest in finding out more about her creators, right? Yes, it's a long shot, but I'm gonna leave you with that thought. Yet another hidden message for Borderlands 3 included the phrase, "We don't speak about Sanctuary 2, concealed in a cipher," which begs the question, what happened to, on or in Sanctuary 2? Consider this a warning, I'm about to drop some spoilers for the end of some Borderlands 2 DLCs, namely Commander Lilith and the fight for Sanctuary. Still here? Good. At the end of the Commander Lilith and the Fight for Sanctuary DLC, Sanctuary was destroyed in a mighty blast to kill Colonel Hector. After that, the Crimson Raiders, with Lilith at their helm, decided to go and seek out the other vaults before other evil bad dudes got a hold of them. Flash forward to Borderlands 3 and your home base is a spaceship named Sanctuary 3. But before Sanctuary 3, there was Sanctuary 2. I have no clue what might have happened to Sanctuary 2 for it to get the Fight Club treatment, but there's a handful of reasons why the Crimson Raiders might be so reluctant to talk about it. And those reasons are: 1. Something horrendous happened to the inhabitants and no one wants to relive the horror. 2. The settlement was destroyed when the Crimson Raiders opened a vault. 3. One of the main characters specifically did something to annihilate Sanctuary 2 and there was a cover-up. Or 4. It's one big joke. Gearbox might not have made the phrase "we don't speak of Sanctuary 2" such a big deal in a hidden message if it didn't specifically link to the main plot of Borderlands 3, but then again, this is also the studio who created a gun that screams maniacally when you fire it, so anything's possible. Gearbox has hidden another couple of questions about Borderlands 3 in other material for the game, and unlike with Sanctuary 2, we actually have answers to these ones, I think. First up is the phrase, "Who is the Destroyer?" This is an easy one. Right at the end of the first Borderlands, you get to the vault and actually fight the Destroyer, which is a giant tentacled beast from another dimension that's found inside the vault. It was imprisoned there thousands of years ago by the Eridians. After you say both hello and goodbye with a hail of bullets, the Destroyer retreats back into the vault, which can't be opened for another 200 years. Hold up though, because that doesn't mean the Destroyer is dead. During your boss battle with the beast, Angel says this:
"This creature may be immortal in its own realm, but in this reality it cannot survive without a host."
So, importantly, the Destroyer is immortal, and it needs a host to survive in our world. Suddenly, that hidden question in the Borderlands 3 material becomes a lot more sinister, as one of the characters in the game might be a host for the Destroyer, although I have no idea how anyone would manage to keep unlocking a vault a secret. It looks like infecting people and taking them over could be one of the Destroyer's first priorities. Whoever the host might be, the Destroyer could be using them as a flesh puppet as it plots its next move in the other dimension. So, basically, we might not have seen the last of the Destroyer. It could be behind all the events of Borderlands 3, manipulating what's going on through a surprise character. Some theories online think that Tannis is acting shady, and if she's not a siren like I suggested earlier, she could be an agent of the Destroyer. Her fascination with Eridian tech, paired with her amoral view of the world, would mean that she'd probably see no issue in teaming up with the Destroyer in exchange for Eridian knowledge. The last hidden question was, where is the first Vault Hunter? The first Vault Hunter was Typhon de Leon, who actually found the first vault by accident after falling down a hole. Majestic, I know. He might be hidden away somewhere by one of the big gun corporations, or possibly connected to Borderlands 3 in an even bigger way. There's a theory going around that he's the father of Tyreen and Troy, the two twins who were trying to open the vaults and sap the power for themselves. The theory comes from YouTuber Killer6, who highlights that Troy and Tyreen have Honor the Father scrawled on the posters for their cult. And there are similarities in the characters' names: Tyreen, Troy, and Typhon. If he is the dad of the dastardly duo, it would explain why Tyreen and Troy both think the vaults are their birthright, and generally act like entitled dicks, especially considering Tyreen is a siren, which might be related to her dad discovering the first vault. Imagine it. You're born with siren powers, and your dad is famous for being the first vault hunter. It'd be hard not to let that go to your head. Although, taking it to the extent that the Calypso twins have is dickish, to say the least. Going back to vault hunting's roots and finding the first vault hunter looks like it's on the cards for Borderlands 3. Since Lilith is trying to hunt down all the vault keys, it makes sense that she might want to send you back to where it all started, especially as Typhon never actually opened the vault. He just nicked the vault key and gave it to the Atlas Corporation for, and I quote, a buttload of cash. So, what could be inside that vault? Well, Typhon de Leon's name sounds like a reference to Juan Ponce de Leon, a Spanish explorer who allegedly went on a quest to try and find the Fountain of Youth. Maybe hidden in that first vault is some kind of immortality. As the Destroyer is immortal, that brings this back to that other question Gearbox planted in our minds. Who is the Destroyer? Maybe the vault Typhon discovered has hidden within it the only way to become a host for the immortal Destroyer. Harbouring the creature inside of you could mean that you're potentially able to live forever, just like the Destroyer. Of course, that last bit sounds like a bit of a stretch, admittedly, but hey, it's worth thinking about. Now that we've dealt with the questions Gearbox wants us to ponder, it's time for something completely different. Are the Eridians going to play a bigger part in Borderlands 3? The enigmatic alien race has already been indirectly part of the Borderlands franchise through their vaults, technology and guardians, but the Watcher's intervention implies that more is at stake for the Eridians in Borderlands 3. If the Watcher, presumably an Eridian emissary, is warning Lilith about the oncoming war and getting all the Vault Hunters she can, it sounds like the Eridians aren't too happy about the prospect of the Calypso twins gaining access to multiple vaults. As far as we know, the closest humans have got to the Eridians' level of knowledge is when Handsome Jack got the briefest of glimpses of it at the end of the pre-sequel, and, safe to say, it drove him mad. If that's what happens to a human after a couple of seconds of exposure to unfiltered Eridian tech, no wonder Eridians are already intervening in the war of Borderlands 3. Their technology is unfathomably powerful, so it's no wonder that the idea of any one human, let alone one Siren, possibly two, wielding all their power and knowledge is something even the Eridians shy away from. Their entire civilization was destroyed, so if the vaults were the cause of their annihilation, the Eridians are probably trying to help humanity avoid the same fate. If that's true, with such high stakes, expect the Eridians, and especially the Watcher, to be a bigger part of Borderlands 3. This question is one that might have occurred to you too. Where the heck are all the other Borderlands 2 Vault Hunters? Gearbox's creative director Paul Sage has confirmed that Gage and her death trap aren't going to be in Borderlands 3. Yet. Okay, he didn't say that last bit, but I can hope, right? The thing is, Gage isn't the only Vault Hunter who's absent from Borderlands 3. So far, Krieg, Axton and Salvador are all missing from the character roster too. Mind you, Borderlands 3 has an impressive lineup anyway, with the pre-sequel, the first Borderlands and Tales from the Borderlands to draw upon. The fact that there's a bunch of returning characters from all of those games in Borderlands 3 means that the game might simply not have had enough space for many more Vault Hunters to appear. But even though they might be missing from the main game, from what we know of it so far, they could appear in future DLCs as a major twist in Borderlands 3's main story, or in the form of skins, with special outfits or heads being released that somewhat resemble the missing characters. Lastly, in the black and white teaser trailer for Borderlands 3, Handsome Jack's mask flashed up for the briefest of moments. Just like his actual face, it's scarred by the imprint of the vault symbol after Lilith punched through it to sock him in the damned face. I mentioned before how Jack is the only human that we know of that's come close to having the same level of knowledge as Eridians, and considering the Calypso twins want to harness the power of the vaults for themselves, this glimpse of Handsome Jack's mask could foreshadow their downfall. Jack went mad after he saw a glimpse of the future. The Calypso twins, with their maniacal cult, are so far going down the same route, and, if they've heard of him, might even be inspired by Handsome Jack. Whatever the reason is for his mask to pop up, it's definitely not good news. So, those are the questions we still have about Borderlands 3. If you liked it, have no fear. There's loads more from Eurogamer you can watch right now, like the ones on the screen as I speak. If you liked the video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe and click the bell icon to get notified when we pop out another one. All that's left to say is see you on Sanctuary 3, killer.